to Law Next. Today we are diving into a notable recent legal tech acquisition, a deal I first reported on last month when Filevine acquired Pinsights, an AI-powered contract redlining company. The acquisition marks Filevine's second major AI deal of 2025, following its earlier acquisition of Parrot. But perhaps more significantly, it signals a strategic expansion for Filevine as this traditionally litigation-focused company moves deeper into the corporate and transactional legal market, a market in which it says it's seeing significant growth. To discuss this, I'm joined today by both Ryan Anderson, the co-founder and CEO of Filevine, and Sona Solakian, who co-founded Pinsights with her sister Miriam and was its CEO. We'll talk about how this deal came together, what it means for the future of AI-powered contract work, and how this fits within Filevine's broader vision to build what it calls LOIS, the Legal Operating Intelligence System. Both Sona and Miriam Solakian, along with their entire team, have joined Filevine. Their product, Pinsights, will now be known as LOIS for Word and will integrate directly into Filevine's LOIS. And to support the new product and its expansion, Filevine will soon open an office in San Francisco, where Pinsights was based. Part of what makes the deal interesting is the backstory. Filevine was actually a customer of Pinsights before acquiring it. As you'll hear Ryan Anderson explain, his legal team became obsessed with the product, which ultimately led to this all-cash 8-figure deal. I'm Bob Ambrogi, and this is Law Next, the podcast that features the innovators and entrepreneurs who are driving what's next in law. Before we get to any of that, please take a moment to hear from the sponsors who so generously keep this podcast running. Enhance your law firm's efficiency with Practice Panther, the leading all-in-one practice management platform trusted by tens of thousands of attorneys. With Practice Panther, you can automate workflows, track time and expenses, manage documents, streamline client intake, and process online payments without ever leaving the platform. Switching is easy with free data migration and live support. Try Practice Panther for free at practicepanther.com. You didn't go to law school to waste time writing and responding to discovery requests. Never waste time on discovery again with BriefPoint. BriefPoint drafts your discovery responses and requests for documents within minutes of your first sign-in. BriefPoint is the most reliable discovery drafting solution on the market, and it works right out of the box. Get your first document drafted by going to briefpoint.ai and clicking Get Started. No credit card required. BriefPoint. Draft what matters, automate the rest. Now let's get to today's conversation. Well, Ryan and Sona, welcome to Law Next.
Great to be here, Bob.
Likewise, great to be here.
Good to see you. Ryan, you're a return visitor to this podcast. You've been on a few times now, getting to be one of the regulars, so it's always good to talk to you. I appreciate it. We're here, of course, to talk about the news that Filevine has acquired Pinsights. Lots of questions, lots I want to talk about there. Before we get to that news, let's just kind of maybe level set a little bit for listeners who maybe have never heard of either of you before. So I know it's hard to believe, Ryan, but
no, I actually believe it. It's actually a problem. We need to fix that. So
no. But it's funny how I'll talk to I'll talk to some of the companies that I think are the biggest names in the world, and then somebody listener will say, "How come you never asked them what they do?" Because I've never heard of them before. Why don't we start there, and then we'll talk more a little bit about it. But Ryan, why don't you kind of give us an introduction to Filevine?
Of course, yeah. So my name is Ryan Anderson. I am the co-founder and CEO of Filevine. We are a legal AI company. We are based in Salt Lake City, Utah. Been around for about 10 years now. So very excited to kind of have passed that milestone. And we serve mostly law firms. That's about 60% of our business, but increasingly government. And our fastest growing segment is actually corporate law, which is relevant to today's discussion. So, we serve all three segments quite well, and really proud of where the company is today. We've had kind of an amazing couple of years. In particular, I would say 2025 was kind of a a flagship, a seminal year for the company, and I think one that will mark down as a point in our business where we will look back as a company that really transformed. So we're excited to be talking today, and yeah, thrilled for anybody who doesn't know more about Filevine. We're thrilled to discuss that as well. And of course, I'm even more excited to be here with Sona, the great founder of Insights.
Or just go back and listen to my past podcast interviews with you and you can learn all sorts of cool stuff. Sona, how about you? Tell us a little bit about yourself and your company.
Sure. So I'm the former CEO and co-founder of Insights. For background, we are based in San Francisco. Insights is an AI contract intelligence tool that helps teams redline negotiate contracts faster in Word. By background, started my legal career actually in legal AI, doing more of the pre-sales, product kind of data science kind of side of work. And then from there, ended up working at a law firm for a while and then started Insights.
And did I see that I was looking at your LinkedIn. It looked like you started out in the direction of the medical field and then kind of pivoted into law or tech.
Yeah, I've kind of done everything at this point. Did healthcare for a bit, working with a lot of the big pharma companies. At my practice in law was also focused on more on the healthcare side of things. But yeah, made my way to legal.
Yeah. I was curious because I saw on when you had posted on your LinkedIn about this acquisition, but you wrote that you had started Pinsights after seeing a clear gap in the market. And given that obviously there are contract automation products out there on the market, what was the gap that you saw?
Yeah, so when we started, there wasn't that many tools out there. The most, I think there were a couple, probably like Legal Sifter or Thought River were the only ones in the market. And my background was coming from other CLM tools selling that product to big companies. So when we were deciding what to build, we actually set up 100 different calls with in-house on the transaction side with in-house and law firm attorneys and showed them everything that could be better, from better repository AI. And this was back in early 2023. So ChatGPT had just come out. We're trying to experiment with what could be better in the market. We showed better repository, better workflows, and every single time we showed Word, everyone would just light up. And that was something that unanimously all 100 people, that is what they wanted. So that's kind of how we decided on what we should build. Some of those early folks ended up becoming customers like Vercel. We actually talked to their very small legal team back then, and they gave us great advice and they wanted a Word add-in. And we ended up building it, talked to them again, and they ended up becoming really great customers. That's kind of how we went about figuring out what it was. We then set up a bunch of calls with consultants and folks who were selling into and understanding the problems of very large enterprise legal teams. They gave us a bunch of examples of what a playbook could look like, all the different forms that could take, how does negotiation work in all these very large organizations. And then we distilled that down into what a playbook would look like in an AI world. How do we build that into a determinative flow, even though the user's flow is very like non-deterministic. They just do whatever it feels good in the moment. But it was something we wanted to put analytics on top of. We wanted to have data around. We wanted to have a learning loop that can feed into making a model better. And you need to create some kind of data layer on top of that. So that was kind of our journey early on, figuring out how we built that product. And yeah, we just been iterating on it. Folks really want playbooks. So the market blew up. Everyone is trying to build playbooks and build Word add-ins now. But I think that intuition at the beginning was right.
Yeah, makes sense. Ryan, I guess let's talk about this acquisition and what it was from a strategic point of view that led you to want to make this acquisition and make this product, this company, part of your company.
Yeah, when we started 2025, if I had told you that corporate would have been our fastest growing segment, you should have been skeptical of that, and I would have been very surprised by it. We've always felt like we had a product that worked well for corporate, but we were continuously surprised throughout the year just how well the product started to resonate amongst very large customers, Fortune 500 customers. And repeatedly, those customers would say, okay, we love what you're doing for sort of enterprise legal management, if we have claims in-house that we're handling, or claims that we're managing with outside counsel, or if we're just handling document repositories, this is great. Fileline's doing a good job. Where's your redlining tool? And our answer was, we don't have a redlining tool. And they said, boy, like we really need a redlining tool. This is something that comes up every single day. And we just didn't have an answer for it. Fortunately, we did know somebody. The good news is we had become a customer of Pinsights completely organically. My GC, who I think you may have interviewed before, Alex Pearson, had a friend who was a GC in town, just local down the street. And that general counsel had referred Alex Pinsights. And so we took a demo with Sona. I wasn't involved in the process. Candidly, I had no idea we'd even purchased the product. I could see myself maybe getting, glad I wasn't, because I probably would have gotten in the way. I said, oh no, we could build that or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, we decided to purchase the product. And then over the course of, 3 or 4 months, my legal team kept saying, this thing is so good. It's incredible. We love using it. You got to come see it. The first time they showed it to me, just leapt off the page, just how cool it was. And I could immediately see why lawyers would really want to have something like this. And then he said, hey, Founder's been on a bunch of calls with us. I think she'd take a call with you. And so Sona was gracious enough to get on a call with me. And early on, I think she thought, why in the world is this founder talking to me about my product? What's going on? But I sort of laid bare that, hey, maybe there's a way to work together someday. But that was actually some time ago. I think Sona and I look back, and it was basically about a year ago that we had that first conversation. And I don't know that it was an acquisition conversation back then, but it was definitely, hey, we should get to know each other. There might be something interesting here. And over the coming months, my team continued to rave about Pinsights, and we continued to hear from customers that we don't have this product. So, I would love to tell you that the vision was, in my head from the beginning, that we were always going to build along these lines. And maybe we would have at some point, but candidly, this is just the result of feeling like we were getting traction in a market that made a lot of sense to us, but not having the full suite of products we wanted to bring to that market. Now, I want to be clear. We didn't just choose Pinsights because we were customers. We looked at everybody. So, if there's an AI redlining tool on the market, I can promise you we looked at it. And candidly, we looked at it for a bunch of reasons, mostly because I wanted to make sure we were making the right decision, but also Pinsights had become quite a hot target. We were not the only ones looking at them. And so I wanted to make sure, hey, if we were going to jump into this and try and convince Sona to work with us, this needed to be the right tool. So I really put my team through the paces, made us try out a whole bunch of different tools. And over again, they came back and they said, this is the best one, which followed my intuition. And so we decided to move forward. And it took more work than I'm willing to admit right here to get Sona over the line. She was a tough sell. So was her sister, Miriam. But after, spending quite a bit of time together, we were able to convince her that we were the right place to house this incredible product and her great team.
So has Ryan got that all right? Is that how you remember it? If what he says is true, which is that you were getting a number of suitors for your company, what was it that made you decide to go with Filevine?
That's a good question. I think just like Ryan did a good market survey, we also did. We talked to a lot of different people. We were in a lucky position, I think, as founders to have several strong futures for the product and team we built. But I think with all those conversations, you're kind of looking for a partner, especially with AI is moving so quickly. We want to have a partner who's going to move as quickly as you, build some really great things over the next few years. And just Filevine, honestly, was exceptional. Spending time with Ryan, the team he's built, all of that kind of just became clear pretty quickly. I say quickly, but I know it was a while, lots of conversations to get to know the team, but they definitely do have a world-class team at Filevine. Everyone is really talented. We're the nicest, like among the nicest humans I've ever worked with. All of them move very quickly, and that kind of shocked me even when we jumped right in. It was the end of the holidays, Christmas, and everyone's still working. They're getting things across the line, helping us transition and make that as smooth as possible. And I think the underlying thing was our belief, both me and my sister, Miriam, as founders, has always been that legal AI works best when your context and your legal judgment meets the lawyers where they already work. And Filevine does that. They're in email, they're in documents, they have all this cool like decision data that we want and like be able to use and build some really cool stuff on top of. And it just felt like Filevine shared that vision and can build something really great together.
Yeah. Ryan, you talked about the fact that you started early in 2025 getting a lot more maybe interest from or traction with sort of the corporate market. And again, for listeners who maybe don't know your background, I mean, you were more traditionally very heavily litigation focused, very plaintiffs focused initially on. You were a former plaintiffs litigator yourself, and yet you had been, moving in broader directions, government, corporate. You had acquired Outlaw in 2021, I think it was, which was a CLM platform, basically. So strategically, are you simply trying to respond to incoming demand, so to speak, or is this a strategy to try and expand your market and build out your product into an ability to serve broader segments of the legal community?
So generally, we want to be able to serve as broad a segment of the legal community as possible, mostly because we do think that a lot of legal work does overlap. I think almost every lawyer needs a data repository, a document data repository. I think every lawyer sort of needs a task management system. I think all lawyers pretty much draft in Word. I think all lawyers want to be able to build documents or templates. They want to be able to run reports. They want to be able to manage their teams and their calendars. And so, a lot of that technology is just highly applicable to many areas. But in the world of legal AI, what really matters is having all that context so that you can start taking agentic work. And so what we're beginning to find is a lawyer might use what we call LOIS, or Legal Operating Intelligence System, to say, okay, hey, what's going on in this case and what are the next things I need to do? And whether you're a corporate attorney or working at a law firm or somewhere else, that is one of the most common questions we get. And the answer to that question is dependent on so much information. What have the people done in the matter so far? Who's worked on it? What has been the progress? What are the upcoming deadlines? What have been the events that have taken place in the matter? And then what all the documents show on the matter along with the emails. But then increasingly, okay, let's say you now know the next step. Maybe you want to draft a letter to your client with an update. Well, increasingly, we have seen that at that point, the customer then takes that data out of LOIS and cuts and pastes it into Word. And so we have always felt that the more that we can do inside the system, the better visibility lawyers get in general. And then the more the AI knows how to sort of handle the next step. So you can imagine if somebody's asking LOIS, what are the next steps on this case and what should I relay to the client for an update? And then we draft that update. Well, the great thing now is, okay, now LOIS knows not only did you draft that update and send it on this date, but here are the contents of that update. And by the way, here's the revisions that maybe the supervising attorney made in Pinsights with respect to that letter or that transactional document that you sent to the client. So the more workflow and operational items that AI can take advantage of, the more useful it's going to be as an agent. And so from our perspective, if you ignore the drafting component of what lawyers do, you're never going to have a truly great legal AI agent. And I'll go a step further. You have to be really good at it, and you have to be really good at it in the place where lawyers draft, which is in Word.
We'll be right back with more from Ryan Anderson and Sona Salakian about Filevine's acquisition of Pinsights and how they're building AI-powered tools designed to work where lawyers actually work, which is right inside Microsoft Word. But first, please take this opportunity to learn about the sponsors whose generosity supports LawNext. Automate your firm today with Practice Panther, the leading all-in-one practice management software trusted by tens of thousands of attorneys just like you. With powerful features like customized workflows, streamlined client communications, automated billing, and easy time tracking, you'll be able to get back to doing what you do best, practicing law. Discover how Practice Panther can transform your firm today. Visit practicepanther.com to get your free trial. The $10 million call doesn't always come during business hours. Sometimes it's 10 p.m. and there's no one there to answer. Eve AI Intake is the always-on system trusted by top plaintiff firms to capture every lead, qualify every case, and make sure the biggest opportunities never slip away. Firms like Mike Morse Law are already using Eve to handle after-hours calls and keep million-dollar cases from slipping away. Visit eve.legal/intake. That's eve.legal/intake so you don't miss the next $10 million call at 10 p.m. Welcome back to Law Next. I'm talking with Ryan Anderson, the CEO of Filevine, and Sona Salakian, the former CEO and co-founder of Pinsights, about Filevine's acquisition of the AI-powered contract redlining company and what it means for the future of legal work. Let's get back to that conversation. I guess the product is getting kind of rebranded as Lois for Word. Is that right? Is it? Do I have that? Yeah. And it sounds like from what I'm hearing that Lois for Word is ultimately going to be a product, or maybe is already starting to be a product that isn't just focused on the transactional side, but that serves the entire customer base, litigation, transaction, whatever it might be. Is that how you envision it?
That's spot on. And I'll let Sona kind of take this question too. But I think, Sona and I had a lot of conversations about our vision for the product, and generally that it should be able to compose lots of different document types, whether it's from lots of different playbooks or templates, or maybe even starting from scratch. And so, I played with the product personally. I saw how good what we'll call composer mode is in Pinsights. And so it was very easy to me to see a world in which you would start drafting directly in Pinsights, ideally with data coming from Lois, from Filevine's very rich AI data layer. And so to me, that just made a ton of sense. We already had customers doing that in other contexts. Like I say, Lois can already draft a great email or discovery responses, or even an initial draft to a brief. So, we felt it was sort of hand in glove from that perspective. But I'll let Sona comment too. It's her product, and she is VP of AI drafting at Filevine. So that's an important role, and obviously one we take really seriously, and we're excited for it.
Yeah, Sona, you want to?
I think Ryan's spot on with that. The problem set is pretty similar. I think the complexity is much different on the litigation than the transactional side, but they each have their own issues of building in legal standards, figuring out how you capture the lawyer's judgment. A lot of that isn't written down somewhere, so we built loops to make sure that we can capture that wherever that is. And then how do you pull in all the right different pieces of data sources for it? And those are different on the transactional side than litigation side. And a great thing about Filevine is it does give us access to a lot of that data sources. So then we can pull it into the drafting flow, build right wherever the lawyer is, and have them flow between their different systems as cleanly as possible. So I guess just different sides of the same coin, but same underlying structure.
Yeah. Is there a equivalent on the litigation side to playbooks on the contracting side?
I mean, less so. I think a litigation attorney would probably call it a template. And here's our motion for summary judgment template. Here's our opposition to a motion to dismiss template. Here's our complaint template. I typically think that's it. And then of course there's templates by type and practice area and type of case, and obviously there's a whole world of those. And so I think there is, and for sure there's. Bob, I think you litigated a little bit yourself, and so obviously there are paragraphs that come up.
A long time ago.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, there's things that you're going to use almost every time. I think almost every lawyer starts a brief kind of this way. They say, "What have I written before in a case similar to this, in this kind of motion?" And Filevine is going to be really good at selecting that document, helping you find it. And then Pinsights can help you draft it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. So what is the plan for this product integration? What's the timeline? What should customers expect? When's it going to happen?
I'll be careful about giving specific dates, but I mean the integrations, they're working on it today. I think we'll begin on just simple kind of authentication, just kind of the nuts and bolts of being able to sign into one product and then you're in all the others. Hopefully pretty soon we'll have Lois data flowing into Pinsights. And then, of course, handling sort of a litigation type flow, I think is going to be on the list. I don't know if that's the very next thing we'll build, but that's going to be high priority too. Sona's probably better to comment there.
No, I think that's spot on. You're like,
Yeah.
there's something we can do with even just those two. Well,
Yeah. If I had been a Pinsights customer in November, what happens to me now? Does this continue as a standalone product, or does it fully get integrated into Fileline? What's the plan there?
sure. I had almost every single customer set up a call with me. I think actually every single customer to know, are we sticking, what's happening? And this legal tech historically has not had a good rap when it comes to acquisitions and what happens to the company. I think we were very conscious of that when we were selecting a partner and going into this. I didn't want to end up like all the other legal techs that I knew where they go in and like really great product doesn't get to shine. Ryan's already kind of shown that to us. We're investing a lot more into the product that folks have already bought. If they want to be a Pinsights customer, Lowe's for Word customer, actually, they can. And yeah, I think mostly they're interested in what we're building and making sure that with AI, it's just like, can you keep the pace of development? Everything changes so fast. There's new things that come up. So our goal is like, can we keep investing and innovating and kind of staying ahead wherever everyone else is?
Yeah, and I'll just briefly mention, of course, it will continue to be a standalone product, and that'll be forever. I have no intention of forcing somebody to purchase Fileline case management or any other Fileline product in order to get Pinsights. I think it's already shown that it can be an excellent standalone product. So that should be the strategy 10 years from now, as you can buy Lois directly as a standalone drafting tool in Word. But to Sona's points, and this really speaks not only to the product quality, which I always think is a reflection of the founders, but also just Sona and Miriam and their team as people. We really want to invest in them. So we are opening up a San Francisco office. We just selected which office after quite a bit of debate exactly where we wanted to be in San Francisco. We just selected which one. So we'll be opening up there probably in the next 30 days. And we've got quite a few hires slated for that office. And then, Sona and Miriam and their team will anchor that location. And I don't know that every single Fileline employee that is in the San Francisco office will only work on Pinsights, but that'll be predominantly kind of where the Pinsights team works on a day-to-day basis. And we're very excited to continue to invest in this team. I just don't think there's a world where lawyers won't use AI. I mean, lawyers use AI to draft today already, I think a lot of them. And it seems quite obvious to me that will be the case for a very long time. And so we feel really comfortable putting a lot of resources and attention behind building with this team pinging us.
Yeah. This is your second kind of AI related acquisition this year. And with following Parrot last spring, I think it was. And, obviously you both talk a lot about the importance of building AI native software at this point in the evolution of legal technology. So, Ryan, I guess I wonder if you could just kind of expand a little bit on that. I mean, what is your vision for sort of an AI-enabled Fileline, AI-enabled law practice going forward?
Boy, it's the kind of question
in 50 words or less.
Right. This makes me no fun at dinner parties because I talk about this for a very long time. So the first thing I'll say is, I think the distinction between legal technology and legal AI will start to be a less important one. One thing we're doing, and this is, I might be breaking something of news here, although I have said this publicly in a different forum. Over the course of the coming months, if you are a Fileline customer, you will actually be required to be an AI customer. Now, I can't force you to use it, but we are no longer building a product where you can say, okay, well, I'll take the Fileline side and then maybe I'll look at the AI side. And that's not to force people to buy it. In fact, I think that there will be sort of a free option essentially. But it is because we want a unified experience for everybody. We want a user to be able to use features that are AI native, and we don't really want to have to think about from a product perspective, okay, is this user going to use the kind of the legacy product or the AI product? There should just be one product.
Right.
There's just a legal AI product that we bring to bear. And so in all of the major features, you can sort of say, this is how we would approach this feature from an AI native perspective, whether it's search, whether it's drafting, whether it's reports. I think you'll see features like Chat SQL for reporting. You'll see Lois play a much bigger role in our interface. Bob, first of all, our Ask Lois feature is the fastest growing feature in Filevine history. It has grown 500% in usage, not dollars. Dollars are actually easier than usage. In usage in the past 4 months, it's so amazing because over 50% of the questions that people ask Lois are answers that they could find within one click of our interface. One click. And yet they would rather ask. And so I just think this world that we're living in is one that is sort of a chat first and maybe even speak first world. So we want to meet our customers where they are. And that means we really don't want to think about two experiences. We just want to think about one. I will say that and you might expect me to say this, but I'm incredibly bullish on what AI can do for lawyers and their clients. We are hearing a lot of legal clients actually require their lawyers to use AI. We actually have, Parrot had a bunch of insurance company customers, and some of those insurance companies have actually written letters to our customers saying, you are required to use AI products in your deposition tool sets. And that makes perfect sense. They're just so much more cost effective and just as good, and in many cases much better than sort of kind of the legacy options. But I also think most clients today, this may not have been true a year ago, but most clients today I think would expect their lawyer to use AI and to save them time and money. And I think what you'll see is there will now be cases that a lawyer would have had to say no to because of the risk or the time burden or the resources that they had available at their firm, that they will sort of now open up the aperture for what they could bring and help their clients with. That's a world that just makes far more sense to me. We say our mission is to bend the arc of history towards justice, and it's a big, lofty goal. But the truth of the matter is, if justice is less expensive and has less friction, everything in this country gets better. And we're mostly focused on the US. We'll go international at some point. But the more justice in the world, the more people can rely on each other to keep their word, to be responsible. If they make a mistake, they got to pay for it. Whether it's a corporation or an individual, the more we're bringing that to bear, the more good we're doing in the world. And AI is a real opportunity to change for the better in that regard. So it's a very exciting time. I think it's a golden age of being a lawyer. I think it's the golden age of legal tech. So we're thrilled with this journey that we're on.
Yeah, of course, that assumes that legal services providers take advantage of that opportunity to pass on some of those savings or availability to their clients. But that's out of your control.
We encourage them, though, for sure.
Yeah. I would assume, just from what I've read, that kind of what Ryan just spelled out in terms of his vision, Filevine's vision, is part of the reason that you were attracted to go there. So how do you kind of view the importance of the role of AI, of being an AI native product in kind of better serving the customers you've had up until now and then going forward?
That's a really good question. I think along the same lines, I think the exciting part for me, especially for legal, is it's still a very hard problem to solve. Like a lot of this stuff, like all the problems in legal are hard. Even the ones that are simple as playbooks are very complicated because you're distilling down basically attorney's workload they've developed over 30 years, working on various companies, various document types, building that knowledge up from the ground. And you're now training an AI that's consumer facing mostly to learn and replicate similar kind of thought processes. So that's been like the most exciting thing for us. And each small thing that you find that being more complicated, like legal research, super complicated, a litigation side even more, all the different layers of the judges you're working with, the case law you're looking at, where you're doing it, who's your counterparty. There's just so much complexity in the legal field that, again, it's just an exciting place to be at the moment. And I think we're in a special time where LLMs are so well suited to the legal field that every single attorney is in the market for an AI tool. And it's just time and execution are the two things that matter right now. And being part of the team that can do that and make a big change in this market, I think it's going to be, just the next year or two is going to be really interesting to see.
Yeah, that's great. Ryan, what else? What else do you want to you want listeners to know about this acquisition and what it means for them and for you?
Yeah, I think anybody listening to this podcast, if you are evaluating a legal AI drafting solution, I would just encourage you to make sure that Pinsights Lois for Word is part of your consideration set. Take it from somebody who had reputation, and a meaningful amount of dollars in stock behind this decision, and a board of directors to convince that this product is exceptional. And what I would hope is that anybody looking at the myriad of tools that are out there, make sure that they look at the amazing tool that Sona has built. I think we bring to bear a really unique story because we have the document repository, because we have the reports, we have sort of all of what you would call the system of record type data. But at the end of the day, you don't necessarily have to make that decision. I tell my team, changing case management's a little bit like changing religion. It's not done very easily, and people get very emotional about it. But a decision around an AI drafting tool can be made much more easily. And so we would love for people to get their first experience with Lois by using something like Pinsights. So come explore it. You don't have to make a whole commitment to the whole Fileline ecosystem to try this product. There's a way to try it very easily through Pinsights.
Yeah. Ever since we started this interview and you talked about being a customer, I keep thinking of that. You're probably all too young to remember the Victor Kiam ad from a long time ago when he used to say he bought Remington, I think it was, and he would say, I loved it. I love the product so much I bought the company. So
yeah, I guess that is exactly right. We loved it that much. That's exactly
well, that says a lot, I guess. Sona, anything else that you'd like to add that we haven't had a chance to talk about here?
No, I'm just really excited. I hope we get to work with a lot of teams. We're working with some really great people already. And I think the best part here, at least if I'm talking to customers, is just finding a team that you believe in, that you want to partner with, and you can kind of take this AI journey together, because we're all learning every day. Sometimes things move in more quickly than we imagine. And having a good partner that can help guide you through that, help just like learn alongside with you, I think is just going to be the fun part of this.
Well, congratulations to both of you and to everyone else involved. Exciting news, and hope you'll keep me posted as this relationship evolves. Yeah, thanks for doing it today. Thanks for joining us for today's show. I hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to share your own thoughts or comments, please do so by messaging us on LinkedIn or other social media, or just email me directly, ambrogi@gmail.com. And if you're a fan of LawNext, please leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. LawNext is a production of LawNext Media. I'm your host, Bob Ambrogi. I hope you'll join us again next time for another episode of Law Next.